Sup nerds, I'm CuppaJoey and today we're going to be having a look at r/entitled parents. Which, as you know, you could probably guess from the title, this is all to do with parents who think that they are owed everything in the world just because they happen to have a kid. It also does include stories of entitled parents that act in an entitled way towards their own kids, rather than about their kids. So just bear in mind that there may be some triggering themes in this episode. Entitled mother brings her 4 kids to an adult-only wedding. I attended an adult-only wedding for a co-worker a few days ago. The actual ceremony was in a very small church, so it was mostly family and close friends, but the reception was for roughly 250 people. The reception was at a very elegant hotel ballroom, not child-friendly in any way, crystal stemware, expensive linens on the table, etc. About half an hour into the reception, a commotion started that made everyone stare. Entitled mother is arguing with the wedding planner loudly. Me being the nosy broad that I am, inched closer to her. Turns out entitled mother brought her 4 young children to the reception, even though the invitations clearly stated adults only. The entitled mother insisted that her kids, I'm guessing ages, but the oldest one looked about 8ish and the youngest one was under a year old, was super well behaved, so it was fine. Now bear in mind this was around 7:30 PM. Wedding planner was having none of it. She insisted that children were not allowed and she had to leave. In the last-ditch effort to get admitted, entitled mother shouted at the bride. The bride went over and listened to her for a moment, then said in a syrupy sweet voice, "Of course you can come in, entitled mother, but your children cannot." She then turned on her heel and went back to her new husband. Entitled mother flipped her nut, yelling about how she was invited, couldn't find a babysitter, etc. 3 of the groomsmen escorted her and her kids to the door. Wow, talk about not taking no for an answer, my goodness. I mean, okay, so if this is a wedding at a really fancy hotel ballroom and they have a wedding planner that they have hired. Now, you know, if you listen to my channel, you will know that I am going to be getting married within the next year or so. But I don't have a wedding planner because I can't afford that stuff, okay? So this is a really, really big fancy wedding. They would have had, you know, months and months and months to plan this. They would have sent out the save the date, you know, all that stuff. There would have been plenty of time to make sure that there was a babysitter available. This was either poor planning on the mother's part or, you know, being cheap. You know, maybe they didn't want to fork out for a babysitter, found out that it was too much money and thought, oh, I'll just bring them along, you know, she won't complain. I mean, what a way, you know, the thing is that when you go to someone's wedding, you need to frickin' respect the rules because that wedding is all about them. If they said you were not allowed to join unless you turn up dressed to Shrek, either turn up dressed as Shrek or don't go, you know. And if you think that that's way too much of a demanding thing to just go to a wedding, don't go. You don't have to go just because you've been invited. I mean, I know that there's social etiquette about, you know, declining, but how entitled is the bride? And, you know, what are they asking for? In this situation, saying, I'm only comfortable with adults at my wedding, that is totally reasonable. And I really like how the bride just took none of the crap from the entitled mother as well. It was just super sweet, then walked off. But damn, 3 groomsmen having to take her and her kids away because she wouldn't take no for an answer. I mean, why would you demand to be in a place where the bride herself has just said that your kids aren't welcome and you're still trying to force them in? My God, that just takes entitlement to the next level. My mother ordered me to leave my husband and my job to return to my childhood home to care for her. I left my hometown and moved as far away as I could from my violently and emotionally abusive mother. I found a good job, made friends, got married. Then my mother became seriously ill. It was clear that she would probably not live for more than 10 years. She, for almost the first time ever, actually picked up the telephone and called me. She told me that I would need to come home as she needed someone to look after her. I pointed out I was married and had a job and a mortgage, but she just kept insisting I return to live with her. I reminded her that I was married and wasn't going to get a divorce, and she told me she would consider letting my husband visit me in her house. In the end, I had to put the phone down on her. Damn, okay, so 10 years as well. She probably would have lived for more than 10 years. Can you imagine 10 years of living with somebody, like, who has been violently and emotionally abusive? and wants you to divorce your husband, right? And all of that, and then spend 10 years with them while they are dying and going to be definitely hanging that over your head the whole time. Because that's the thing, is that when emotionally abusive people get sick, they use that as much as they possibly can. Now, I have seen a similar situation where there is a family member of mine who is he's in pain all of the time, just to put it bluntly, and he has chased away all of his family members due to the fact that he is just cruel. And now he's in a situation where he's in pain and just having to deal with it. And, you know, this woman's going to be in the exact same situation. I don't understand why you can't just freaking love your kids, you know? And I say that as somebody who hasn't got children. And, you know, I don't know whether I do or don't want children in the future. You know, it's still I don't know. But also the whole, I would consider letting him visit you. Just so awful. Just to have all of that control with someone this terrible. I'm glad OP put the phone down. I'm really glad that she did. Because can you imagine if she said yes and then just went back to that? It's like, you know that bit in the horror film where they escape and then it's all good and then they realise they haven't really escaped? That's essentially what it would have been. Fair play to her for just not taking those demands. Sister's birthday ruined by entitled aunt and her daughter. Yes, I know it says entitled birthday, which did make me giggle a little bit, but, you know, within the story they mean, entitled aunt. Hello, I'm from India. English isn't my first language, so apologies in advance for any mistakes. Sorry this is going to be long. By the way, their English is absolutely beautiful. I have to say, with a lot of these posts that say English isn't my first language, I'm sorry for mistakes, they always speak English so well and write it absolutely beautifully. But anyway, on to the story. This incident happened about 8 years ago. It was my sister's birthday and had a lot of family members from my dad's side were invited. My dad's sister, who will be called entitled mother henceforth, and her daughter, entitled cousin henceforth, were visiting us after a lot of years because they shifted to California. So Entitled's mother wanted her daughter to be the centre of attention since the moment they came in. Entitled's cousin was about 7 years old and everyone was quite taken with her because she spoke in an adorable accent. When it was time for the cutting the cake, Entitled Mother wanted Entitled Cousin to cut it, even though it was my sister's birthday. The reason being, she's a kid. She deserves to cut the cake. She's the youngest of them all. My sister is way too old to be cutting cakes anyway. It was my sister's 11th birthday. Entitled Mother's request/order was declined by my mum, which made Entitled Mother quite angry. When dinner was served, Entitled Mother was very hungry and sat down to eat. As soon as she started, Entitled Cousin started crying and demanding to be fed. As Entitled Mum expected and Entitled Mother expected my mum to stop eating and feed her kids. My God, I had to go out and get out. And my mother agreed. Oh gosh. The worst was at the time of gift unwrapping. My sister loves Barbie, so she received a doll and a dollhouse from my mum and dad. I gave her a bunch of homemade chocolates that I made myself. Entitled Mother. What does sister need chocolates for? Come on, give them to Entitled Cousin. You're way too old for them. Sister gave Entitled Cousin some of them, which Entitled Cousin proceeded to start eating right then. Sister went on to unwrap other presents and was made to share a bunch of other stuff like sparkle pens, a set of crayons, etc. too with Entitled Cousin. Entitled Cousin, after some time, started wailing that she wanted more chocolate. Entitled Mother literally shouting, "Why have you not given her the chocolates? Did I ask you to? Why are you being so mean? She's your cousin, she deserves them." Sister was almost at tears and gave her 3 more. Now only 5 chocolates remained, which she gave one to each of us, Mum, Dad, Entitled Mother and me. I saved mine to give to her later. Entitled Mother noticed it and asked me to give it to Entitled Cousin since I obviously wasn't going to eat it. I didn't. So when Sister got to unwrapping the dollhouse and the Barbie, Entitled Mother actually pounced on the doll and started pulling it away from Sister. Now Sister started to cry, which made Entitled Mother angry, and she screamed at Sister to shut up and stop being so mean and stingy. Entitled Cousin was from the US and didn't have any Indian toys, and she needed the doll. My father flat out refused, which resulted in more screaming and crying. Then she left in a huff and kicked at the dollhouse, denting it. My sister was very sad, and needless to say her birthday was ruined, but that was not the end. About an hour or so later, Entitled Mother was back kicking and screaming at our door saying we had poisoned her kids and that she would be suing us. Entitled Cousin's stomach was aching, but instead of calling a doctor, she had drove her to her house. To our house, oh my goodness. We seated him and called the doctor, during which entitled mother was screaming about how we were jealous of her and would suffer terrible fates. The doctor said the pain was because of overeating. Guess she shouldn't have had 6 of those chocolates. Entitled mother then proceeded to blame me and my sis for everything, saying how both of us were spoiled and mean kids. Too long didn't read. My entitled aunt ruins my sister's birthday by taking most of her gifts for her kid and then destroyed her dollhouse and blamed her kid's stomach as poisoning on my family. Edit, I've posted a part 2. And oh boy, we're going to move on to part 2 shortly, but first let's just have a look at this situation. Okay, first of all, why even make that journey if you're just gonna treat your family members like that, especially your niece on her birthday? So I understand that they are people who emigrated to America, so I mean, there's gonna be a certain amount of difficulty with that. Of course, if you live in a separate country to the one that you grew up in, you are going to want to, go back and visit family, visit loved ones, get a little bit of taste of home, every year, every few years, it's natural for people in that situation. But what I don't understand is why make the trip for your niece's 11th birthday, an 11-year-old girl, just to treat her like that. Like, no kid should be crying on their birthday, The only time I've seen a kid crying on their birthday and I thought, oh, for God's sake, shut up, is like those super sweet 16 kind of things. Like, if everyone's not looking at me right now, then I'm gonna poo on the stage and make them look. It's not that situation. It's just a little girl who wanted to enjoy a Barbie and some chocolates on her birthday. And that was her crime. Now, when it comes to sharing of her gifts, okay, so I'm gonna look at the chocolates first of all. So they were handmade by OP. Okay, so there was an amount of love and care that would have gone into these chocolates. OP made these chocolates specifically for their sister. No, I was one of those kids where if I got a box of chocolates for my birthday, I would have passed it around to the family. It was, it was like a thing that if you got some kind of sweet, you'd always share it. We were very much a sharing family. And, for me, that was part of the joy as a kid. I used to like, watching my family have it and asking what they thought of different things and gauging their opinions. Well, I was a bit of a weird kid, though, having said that. But you definitely don't freaking demand it, and you don't demand it from a child. Like, what the hell? And to, try and guilt trip them into it by saying, oh, well, this kid's younger, when they're only younger by, 2 years? That's absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, the entitled cousin is definitely going to be going around thinking that she's a princess. And looking down on the rest of her family as well. I don't know whether the fact that they've moved to California, because that's a particularly affluent area as well, has, made them into rich snobs. That could well be the case. But not only that, the freaking Barbie has to just decide, oh, you're too old. Like what? Okay, so we know this was an 11-year-old girl, and that in itself is just absolutely abhorrent. But even if this was, say, a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old, or even if it was an adult, let's say it was someone my age, let's say it was 28, and it was a Barbie that I really wanted, okay, it would still be mine. It's still the person whose birthday it is, especially if it's something particularly special. And I mean, for Barbies are expensive, and I imagine with the dollhouse and everything, that would have cost a hell of a lot of money. So it definitely would have meant something. And then to just dent it out of bitterness that they didn't hand it over to you, I mean, that's just absolutely cruel. I mean, the whole poisoning thing I find absolutely hilarious, though. How paranoid and how bitter. There must be some issues between OP's father and his sister, the aunt in this case, because there's just so much animosity right off the bat. Being demanding. The fact that they would jump to, oh, you must have poisoned my child, instead of, hey, she just ate too many chocolates. I mean, that's quite, surely, I mean, every kid gets a stomachache from having too much chocolate, right? It's what kids do. It's what I did. It's what I still freaking do. This is just, I don't understand how she would have jumped to that conclusion. This is wild. But you're right. At the bottom, at the edit, it said, I have posted a part 2. She too read this story and called us up. Not to apologise, though. And wow. Oh, when somebody that was like that has read this story about them, about themselves, it's going to be good. Entitled mother flips after she reads the post about her daughter and her. Hello again. I posted a story about my aunt ruining my sister's birthday the day before yesterday. Turns out she or her daughter is on Reddit and are subscribed to r/entitledparents and read the story. This is what happened last night. EM, entitled mum, who's my aunt, entitled cousin, her daughter, sister, my sister. Entitled mother called my dad last night about 11 when my dad was half asleep. Oh my goodness, and this was at 11 at night. They wanted answers immediately. Entitled mother, how could you do this to us? Are we family? Why did you shame us like this? It was so many years ago. Could you just let it go? And my dad has no idea what she's on about, so he asks her what happens, to which she tells him that we posted on Reddit about my sister's birthday. My dad doesn't know and doesn't care what Reddit is, so asks what's the big deal. Entitled mother, wow, so your daughters do things without telling you? You should keep an eye on them. Just don't let them get out of hand. You should have taught them manners. OP just exposed us and shamed us online. Dad, what are you saying? How did she expose you? She hasn't even talked to you in years. Entitled mother, she posted a story about us, and as soon as entitled cousin read it, we knew it was about us. I haven't divulged any names in that story, not even mine. Dad asked me if I did that and why, so I took a total of 15 to 20 minutes to explain to Dad what Reddit is and what I did. I tell him that I have just narrated a story and I haven't exposed her identity in any way, so Dad just hands me the phone so I can explain it to her. As soon as I say hello, entitled mother starts screaming at me so loudly that it can be heard outside the phone. EM, you B, how could you do that? Who do you think you are? You poison my child and then make it up as if I was overreacting? Take that post down now and apologise for it on the subreddit. If you don't know, I'm gonna sue you. What the frick? I'm so angry, so I just say no. I won't do anything of that sort, and I would love to see how you can sue me all the way from California. Entitled mother then proceeds to call me and my sister a WHORE and similar things. My dad takes away the phone and asks her not to ever contact any of us and blocks her. So hey there, Aunt Sheila, hope y'all read this. Oh, just calling out Aunt Sheila by name. Nice. And wow, yeah, I mean, like I said in the previous one, there clearly was issues between the dad and his sister to say, never contact any of us again. Because, I mean, you're not just going to cut off contact with your sister, sorry. You would just cut off contact with your sister for no reason. Like, especially, I mean, if she acts like that, especially with how she acted originally, and then the way that she reacted once, she saw that people were talking about it. I would have loved for her to have read the comments as well, because all the comments were basically talking about what an awful person, how could anybody treat a girl like that, an 11-year-old girl like that, and, demand all these things for her crotch goblin. I really hope that she read the comments and saw how people found this behaviour absolutely disgusting, because it is. But damn, to phone up and not say, look, I'm really sorry, please take it down, or have any kind of humility, but just try and scream about it, saying, I'm gonna sue you, and you're WHORE. I mean, to say all those slurs as well, it's so bad. I mean, there clearly must have been some kind of pattern of behaviour. I wonder if they were really regretting inviting her to the younger daughter's birthday party when she acted like that. Or even on the way, I bet that they were oh, Sheila's gonna be up to something, Sheila's gonna be doing something bad. But wow, I mean, to have that much anger, and the fact that she knew that it was about herself says it all. It's she still thinks that, I don't think that she thinks that they poisoned the kid. I think that she knows that they didn't, and that she was just, she let her kids gorge on chocolate a little bit too much. But she doesn't want to admit any kind of fault in her motherhood, so she's, just convinced herself that her kid was poisoned. And then making up as if I was overreacting. I mean, I think that was the case, and wow, can you imagine if she went to her lawyer and was I want to sue for this post, even though it doesn't say her name at all. And wow, imagine being in that family and being being sub to entitled parents, and then seeing that, not having any self-awareness while you're judging other entitled parents that you may be one of them yourself. Well, that's it for this episode of r/entitled parent. I found that there are two flavours of entitled parent. There are those that think that their child deserves everything, and those that think that they deserve everything from their child. And as I say at the end of every episode, if you'd like to hear more from this subreddit or from any other subreddit, then do let me know down in the comments. And until then, I'll see you all next time.